a.k.a. Yo soy blanco, pero no soy banco. And yes, it's time. We're finally launching the Mario Fama RD podcast. Now, what's going to be different about this podcast? Well, we're going to take our rose-colored glasses off. We're going to put our real glasses on. And we're going to talk about the hard-hitting subjects that nobody talks about being an expat here in the Dominican Republic and in Latin America in general. We're going to talk about law. We're going to talk about business. We're going to talk about lifestyles, and everything the Dominican Republic has to offer. The good, the bad, the ugly. Kind of like the Clint Eastwood Spaghetti Western, but here in the Dominican Republic. If you have any questions, we'll answer them for you. We're going to talk about everything that relates to being an expat, not just in Punta Cana, but Santo Domingo, Santiago, the North Coast, the East Coast, West Side, even the West Coast. Everywhere. And if you want to be a patrocinador and have your logos up here and sponsor us, then let me know.
Acabas de escuchar.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Mario Fama RD, a.k.a. Yo soy blanco, pero no soy banco. But first, let's give a big thank you to our weekly sponsor, or bi-weekly sponsors in this case. Boom, Franklin, if we can get that up there, we'll get rocking and rolling, and then we got a lot of cool stuff to talk to you about today. First, we have Samaná Group from Samaná. They're building tons of great property out there in Samaná. They have the exact what you're looking for when you think of Samaná. You think of country. You think of being in the tropics. Great group. They have a lot of great projects there. And Gold Reef. Gold Reef Properties here in Punta Cana and in Playa Nueva Romana, where it's awesome with PGA's Ocean 4. So great properties, great groups. Thank you so much for being sponsors as usual. And welcome back. I took last week off, guys, because I was moving. So I have a lot of stuff that I want to talk to you guys about that's been going on for the last 3 weeks. Those of you guys that follow me on social media, that have been following some of my posts and everything that's been going on, I've been keeping you guys up to date with everything that's going on in the news here in the Dominican Republic. So today, I don't have special guests. I've been kind of crazy. Flying out to New York, I got moving. And moving here is an interesting thing. And I know if you guys have moved here, you understand how it is. When I've moved outside of the country, I've usually moved right away. Like I get, one day all the stuff gets picked up, it gets taken somewhere else, and next thing you know, boom, you've moved and everything is great. No. I got my place in August. I started moving in September, and I finally finished last Tuesday night. Was the first night that I slept in the apartment, even though it's not 100% done, but I was able to sleep there. And then I got my mattress from Naco Colchones, which I always plug in on social media and in my videos. I got a really great price, because if you guys know, I'm super, super big on the way one sleeps here. I think a lot of times people here don't invest, whether it's an Airbnb property, whether it's your own place. People just look for what's the cheapest thing that they can buy, which I understand, because things here are more expensive a lot of times than the United States, right? Like we're used to certain pricing on products, and when you come here, you find out that, mattresses, beds, TVs, anything that's electronic, cars, all this stuff costs way more money here. So we tend to say, oh no, I'm not going to spend that kind of money. Don't skimp out on your mattress. Don't skimp out on certain things. And especially if you're buying an investment property, which is part of what I want to talk to you guys today. And I've done certain videos about that. If you're going to buy an investment property, you should always try to strive to have the nicest property available on the complex where you have your property. Because what happens is, I'll give you an example. I've seen different properties here in the Dominican Republic, and I've seen people that bought them that rent their properties out all the time, whether it's Airbnb or whether it's on long-term rental. And what happens is, if your property is the nicest one, has a comfortable bed, it gets great reviews, it has nice furniture, and I'm not talking about the cheapest purple couch that you can find at IKEA. I'm talking about finding buying stuff for your property that's really, really nice. Because one thing I've said in a lot of my conversations here in my videos, Dominicans from Santo Domingo, they tend to make their apartments a lot nicer. Their apartments look much nicer. They put like paneling, they put nice wall units, they do all of that. Expats, I feel like a lot of times, because they don't hire an interior designer and they don't know where to buy the stuff, they don't know who the guy that makes it for a good price, they see a quote and it might be really high. They just go to IKEA, they go to the basic stores, they find the most affordable things they can throw in there, and the apartment looks like a throw together. It looks like it was thrown together, and that definitely is not what you want to do with an investment property. I was talking to a fellow real estate broker, and he said, listen, Mario, I have 2 one-bedroom apartments in a complex like a couple of feet away from the ocean, right? One is rented all the time, and one is not rented all the time. And what's the difference? It's the way that they not only market it, but also the way that they furnish the property. nice looking places rent better. I used to have a place in Sosua, and we had 99 apartments there. And my place was rented like 75, 80% of the year. And during the busy season, 100% of the year, people would take it for several months because it was such an easy place and it was so easy to live in the place. Now, other people skimped out. They had uncomfortable furniture, uncomfortable mattresses. So all the clients would call me and try to book throughout the year. Otherwise, it would not work most of the time. Sorry, we're having a little technical. We're going back and forth. We're good, Franklin? Hey, hi. And there. I'm doing two people's jobs today, guys. I usually could do up to 5, just so you know. But yeah, it's super important that you guys, when you come out here and you buy property, if you're going to invest in an investment property, do hire a interior designer. Make sure you get some nice furniture that does not look like a sparsely put together apartment. That's going to affect your business down the road. And especially now, because you guys know that here in Punta Cana, we have a ton of property. So your property has to stand out. They've built and given the keys in for thousands of units in the entire Punta Cana. And if you guys don't know, there's 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 more that are going to be built over the next 5 years. So what are you doing so that your property stands out? You have to think about that when you're buying it, because I have that happen a lot where people get apartments and they're like, I'm not renting it out, or nobody wants it. You know, there's one property right now that we have in Punta Cana Village, and we have it for rent, and it's a great property. But what ends up happening is that with this property, the furniture is old, and people went in and hated it. Even though it's a great price, they hate the property and nobody wants to rent it. So you lose more money by not investing properly into that apartment or home that you're buying. So that's just my tip. I've seen it all the time, and I always make my places look really, really nice because of that. Now, a lot of people have asked me, Mario, what's going on with the market? What's been going on lately in the Dominican Republic, Punta Cana, and everywhere? Well, a couple of things have happened. You know, this year I feel like it's been one of the slower years. Yes, there's still sales. You know, it's slower. Keep in mind, guys, that we've had like really super hyper markets here up until June of 2022, and then we've had pretty decent markets. But a couple of things have happened. One, everybody's waiting. Everybody's waiting for the elections in the United States. We're connected to the United States. You know, whether people like it or not, Dominican Republic is directly connected to the United States. So we're all waiting to see what happens now with the elections. There are a lot of people that are like, I need to see where the economy is going in the United States based on who's going to win. No matter who wins, it's a different person. It's not the same person that's going to get reelected. It's a different person, and obviously could be a very different party. So that affects a lot on how things work here and how they're going to work here in the future. So people are on standby. Now, another big thing that happened here, they had a reforma fiscal. A lot of people ask me to explain to them, what does a reforma fiscal mean, Mario? Well, they proposed a bunch of tax changes. They call it modernization, but it wasn't really a modernization. It was upping taxes and removing tax benefits like Confiture, which allows you not to pay 3% of the transfer tax when you first buy a new construction property in a tourist area. And it allows you 15 years of no property taxes over 8-point-something million pesos that they have now. Now, they were also proposing to bring down the EP, which is your property taxes, down to like 5 million and up. So you lost 4 million pesos, which is like about $90,000 in tax-free money. So all these different things, as well as doubling the marbete, putting taxes on any products under $200, which we have now tax-free through Amazon, and a bunch of other different things that were going on there that might not affect most expats, but it affects people who work and live here. Because a lot of expats ask me, Mario, what does it mean to me as an expat? I'm like, well, if you bought your property here cash, you bought a $12,000 car cash, or don't have a car, get a scooter or whatever, four-wheeler if you're in Las Terrenas, and, the only thing that you're going to see is you're going to see an increase at the restaurants, at the bars, and sometimes if you need to buy certain goods because of the taxes going up. But you're not going to be like, oh, now all of a sudden I have, if you bought with Confiture, it's not going to affect you. But somebody buying later on will not get Confiture on a new project if the new project is even built. It did not mean when they proposed it that they were going to cut the Confiture for people that already had it. Once you approve for Confiture, that was great. But going further, they were not going to approve any. So what happened? Giant backlash from the people of this country. They had the Cámara de Diputados, the Cámara de Deputies, they had people come up and talk to them, kind of how you've seen people go to Senate hearings in the United States, and people gave them a piece of their mind and a little bit more. And they realize that the only thing that they can do is take it off the plate right now and say, no, we're going to kill the reforma. People were like hitting the pots every single night, which was a sign before the current administration won that they wanted the old administration out. It's like, if we're tired of the political party and we're tired of what they're doing right now, every night, 8 o'clock, we get out on our terraces and we bang our pots to let the whole country know that we're not happy with this. So they started doing that, and what they said when they went and they spoke in front of the politicians, it was pretty clear that there was going to be civil unrest if they passed this reforma fiscal. So modernization fiscal, whatever. It didn't go through. Now, they don't have another one proposed right now, but does that mean that over the next 3.5 years or 3 years or whatever, there's not going to be another one coming up while this presidency is still active? Probably not. I've seen people, I follow all the news here, so I've seen politicians and I've seen these speakers, and they say, well, look, there's going to be another one coming up. You know, it's kind of common sense. Let's just see if the next one that comes up actually helps. Because people here, they're very tolerant until they snap. That's pretty much how the culture is. And I can tell you that a lot of people, you know, we see these numbers and we see the economy's growing, and it's true. The economy is growing when it comes to certain things. It's growing when it comes to infrastructure, to big businesses, to export. I know this country does a lot of pharmaceutical business where they build all these create all these pharmaceutical products. I think they have like all these factories in Santo Domingo there in the circulación. And yes, overall export GDP, when you're looking at all these big numbers, you know, yes, the country is growing. But if you talk to your average person on the street, the country is not growing. The only thing that's growing are the prices. The incomes for salary workers are not growing, but the prices of everything has gone up significantly. You know, and I talk to you guys a lot of times. I know people say, well, it's less than Toronto and less than New York or Los Angeles. The world doesn't revolve around that, guys. I know we think so. I'm from New York, too. Hey, how you doing? I'm from the capital of the world, baby. Everything revolves around me. But that's not true. People here don't give a damn that you're paying $30 for a burger in Toronto when a burger here is $20 and the median income is $9,000 and plus annually. Let's stop talking about the minimum income. I think a lot of times, you know, I see expats in the groups that are like, the minimum income. Look, guys, minimum sucks everywhere. Maybe Europe, I don't know, but anywhere in the United States, North America, minimum income, you're not making. You can't do anything, and you can't do anything here. But you have to look at things like the median income, you know, and I've been going to Colombia, I've been going to Panama. Those of you that know I'm trying to open up an office. I'm going to open up an office in Panama, a real estate office there. And you have to look at a country's median income, and then you have to look at the price of what things cost. And here, the median income is about $9,000 and change, slightly under $10,000. And you look at the price of what things cost, and you understand that people here are just getting by, a lot of people. How do they do it? I've been trying to figure it out for 2 years. Even my Dominican friends from the United States, they're like, how do people survive in the Dominican Republic when everything is so expensive? And to tell you the truth, I don't know. I think people here hustle. They have 2-3 different side hustles, plus their job. They're doing all these different things because I was talking to a friend of mine, and I made the statement because I analyzed the numbers, right? A good salary in this country, like a median income salary, is going to be about 50,000 pesos a month, okay? Now, let's make that times 3, 150,000 pesos. Now, expats that come here might be like, oh my God, 150,000 pesos, $3,000. There's a lot of money in the Dominican Republic. Because expats think that the Dominican Republic is all like pueblos, colmados, and barrios where people live in the hood. It's not. I had a friend of mine who worked for a government official here in a government job. He was making $150,000. He quit his job. He said, I got 3 kids, bro. He goes, I can't pay my bills. I can't maintain my life with 150,000 pesos a month. So I'll break it down to you guys, right? Let me break it down to you in like a real world. Not your imaginary, not the guy that tries to hit you up for money. He says, oye, préstame 1,000 pesos, hermano. Not that guy who's trying to hustle you out of money. Real life. Let's talk about Santiago, Santo Domingo. Let's talk about like just real life. Even here in Punta Cana, in Verón. Forget about where all the gringos live. Let's talk about Verón. $150,000 does not allow you 3 times the median income, does not allow you the liberty here to buy a new or even semi-new Kia Sportage and a 6 million peso apartment. right? Let's think about that. Because you think about it like, oh, $100,000 apartment, and well, every car here is a luxury car because the prices are so much higher than the United States. They're up to double at times, right? So you're looking at a $40,000 car and you're looking at a $100,000 apartment. For that $40,000 car, you have to put 30% down, $9,000, right? That leaves you $30,000. Your financing here is $200. My preferred rate is $200 per 10,000. So that means I'm at $600 a month for that Kia Sportage, right? Okay. A Dominican person with a 13-14% rate, and I've published that they had a feria with Banreservas, and they were doing it at 13 and plus. So that person would be paying $750 for that car. Okay, now they want to buy an apartment. The apartment, let's think of a crappy $100,000 apartment, right? Which I just that's crap for $100,000. You're somewhere in Santo Domingo, deep este, not even San Isidro, and you're going to be paying. Let's say I'm just giving you round numbers. You're putting $30,000 down now, right? So now this person needs almost $40,000 to buy a basic car and a basic apartment down payment. Now he gets a $70,000 loan on that $100,000 apartment. That $70,000 loan is 15 max 20 years. And you're talking about 40. I get 9% because I get a good rate because, I work in dollars. This person gets 13-14% as well, right? So now you're talking about $2,000 and something for your car and your home a month. You can't do it. You can't do it. Even on 3 times the median income here, people cannot have a decent life. This is the reason why people came out and we're so vocal against the tax reform, because everybody that lives here, that works here. I'm not talking about you guys that have a pension. I'm not talking about you guys that have a business from abroad that you're getting money, or you have $1 million, $2 million, $5 million. You're living off the interest. You bought your house here. You bought a car, cash. You guys, different world. Rich people that come here to golf, it's a different world. For those people that live and work and pay taxes here, on top of that, you have 18% tax on everything. Then you have, I'll get to that with the restaurant thing, which is another thing, but you have 18% tax on everything. So these people are all maxed out. They're just basically living from day to day, and 3 times the median income does not allow you a decent life here. So imagine people making less than that. And, you see a lot of people living in shacks. You see people living in these little tin houses in the barrios, and they survive off of buying 2 eggs, and they hustle up 1,000 pesos here, 500 pesos there. But even the people who live in the major cities who are doing well, technically doing well, have a hard time. They've got to buy a car for $12,000 because they can't afford to get a decent car, which is why you see so many cars breaking down on the road, and you see so many different issues. So I just want to kind of educate you guys a little bit on what the lifestyle here costs for people, to understand why people got so upset when this reforma fiscal came out, because this would have been the straw that broke the camel's back. I think people would have just lost their crap and they just would have went crazy, and that would have been it. So life here has gotten really, really expensive. And if you cut down if they wanted to cut down the confiture, that's what's necessary here in order for people to build properties in tourist areas. And this country makes a lot of its money on foreign income. You got remesas and you have foreign income, foreign investment into the country, right? If they stop that at, and I don't know if it's a good thing or not, because I do agree that they've overbuilt in a lot of the country right now. They've overbuilt and they haven't let it catch up to the amount of people that want to be here. So that's another issue that's going to happen. But if they stop the growth, if they stop the building here, if investors start pulling out from building here and go to other places, then that's going to make it even worse. Because we're at a point right now where it's like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? We've got a lot being built here. We have a lot of people invested here, a lot of people that bought property, a lot of them mostly to flip it. But we have to figure out basically how to keep it going, but at a good rate, right? We have to keep it going at a good rate. We can't have it going at a bad rate, because then it's going to be like everything's going to sit here and it's going to be vacant, right? If you freeze and you stop everything right now with the high prices that are going on, nobody's going to be moving into these apartments, and that's a dangerous part of the future that we might have if this is not done correctly. So we definitely dodged that bullet for right now, I think, and that's what's been going on. But the pricing, the price difference here, the pricing here, I've heard a lot of expats, including myself, complaining about the prices here on some of the properties. And I've also heard people complaining about the prices on some of the goods that we have here, meaning going out to restaurants. I put up something the other day and people were like, well, in my country, it's this much money and the taxes are this much money. But you guys have to understand that, again, we're going off the median income here, right? I went to a restaurant, and one thing I don't like about the tourist areas, when you go to the beach towns, one thing that definitely pisses me off is that there's a hustle that goes on here, right? Where you go to a restaurant. I personally have seen a lot of bad service. I feel like with all the development, all the building that we have here, I think there needs to be a call by independent business owner, a call to quality, a call to action. We have to get better service. You talk to everybody, you look at the expat groups, people talk about how the service is just not there. Okay, I agree. They need to make better service, but they also got to stop running these little games sometimes in the expat areas. One thing that I don't like is I went to the beach. I went to a spot. The service was horrendous. I mean, 100% horrendous. And then the waiter had the nerve to tell me that the tip was not included in the bill, but it is. Whenever you get a bill here, for those of you guys that don't know, and some of the North Coast guys are like, yeah, man, I don't pay the 28%. Well, I believe you, because the place you're probably going to is a mom and pop that doesn't pay taxes, and you're getting that benefit. I know in Las Terrenas, for example, a lot of restaurants there, they're like, yeah, man, if you pay cash, I won't take the 18%. Good for you, but that's not the normal. Not the normal when you're dealing with main Santiago, main Santo Domingo, main Punta Cana, right? When you're dealing with the main stuff, most businesses are registered because they don't want problems with impuestos internos, obviously, so they're going to pay their taxes. But for people that run in my world, in what I do here, it's the norm. We pay the 28%. And I'm not happy with it, but it is what it is. But what I don't like is when you go to these beach towns and the waiter comes up and it's like, oh, the tip's not included. Oh, please, pay on top of that. Give me a tip on top of that. If you want to leave something on top of the tip, then that's your prerogative because you thought the service was good. But the truth is that the tip is included. So I'll give you guys a breakdown of how it is. 18% is the sales tax, right? The VAT, whatever you guys want to call it, Debbie's, whatever. Then you have a 10% service charge. It's called ley, but if you look it up anywhere and if you talk to any attorney, the ley is just a word that they use, and it says it is a propina. It is a tip. Now, I've had a lot of expats that are like, oh, yeah, no, man, that's not a tip. That's a service charge that's to be included for blah, 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 blah. I don't care what you want to call it. The law is a tip, and those are supposed to be spread between the people because I've owned bars and I've owned restaurants, and the cash tip is actually supposed to be done as well. If you get a tip in cash, you're supposed to put it in a pot, and at the end of the shift, share it with the rest of the servers. Now, do they do that here? I doubt that either. But what bothers me is that they tell you the tip is not included, and this happens to me only in the beach areas. Because I will tell you do that in Santo Domingo, Santiago, the Dominicans are not going to go for that. They're going to be like, oh, you think I'm an idiot? I'm looking at it right here. It's called the ley. You already got your tip. What are you talking about? So I don't like the fact that they lie to you when it comes to the tips. That bothers me because nobody likes to get lied to in their face. But it already is going to make the bill 38%. So if I give you the 18, 10 plus another 10, let's say, on top, you're talking about 38% over the cost of the actual bill that you have, right? That's a lot of money when you're looking at percentages. And you guys can say, I get the comparisons between Canada and the United States. Well, why doesn't everybody talk about Europe, where people don't generally tip? Why don't we talk about other countries in Latin America where, I'll give you an example, Panama is 0% tax and 7% on alcohol, and there the customary tip is 10. The customary tip in Colombia is 10. You can give more if it was great service. You can give less or none if you didn't like the service. But you guys can't, expats shouldn't compare everything to where their home country is. Just because we come from there doesn't mean we want to do the same thing. Because, you came from Canada, so now are you going to pay $1 million for a $300,000 apartment because that's what it costs in Canada? So, you know what I mean? You don't get to choose and compare when it's convenient for you. And that's one thing that bothers me here. And as restaurant owners, they have to make sure that they're in charge and they're on top of their staff, because you get a bad experience and you're going to lose clients. Like for me, I'm never going back to this bar. Whatever, beach bar. I went there. The service was horrible. The girl left for lunch for an hour, left us unattended. And then to get her to pay the bill, I had to get one waiter to grab him from the bathroom, because when I went to the bathroom 5 minutes before wanting the bill, she was sitting down on a chair in front of one of the two sinks with the bathroom attendant painting her hair on the job with a toothbrush with paint. Excuse me, can you stop your hairstyling session and come over here and get my get my bill? It was ridiculous. I think it was probably ridiculous. I'm just checking my phone to make sure, because sometimes you guys send me messages when I'm on the show, so I want to make sure that I don't miss anybody's message when I'm on it here. Cool. All right. Got it. Sorry. I like to check because the last time somebody wrote me messages and I didn't see it till after the show, so I kind of felt bad about that. But yeah, so those are things that are going to affect tourism. We have to look at the taxes for properties. Gladly, they didn't adjust those. And the cost of living. I've been talking to people, and people have been telling me that it's been very, very slow this last low season. So it's going to be interesting to see how this high season is because of things like this. People come, they have a bad experience at your restaurant, they're not going to want to come again. If they have a bad experience at 3-4 restaurants in the same area, they're not going to want to come to the same area again. So for people who own those kind of businesses, I think they should think about, how they train their staff, what to say, how to do it. And that 10%, by law, you're supposed to pay it to your workers. Do that so they don't go and ask people for money at the table, which is considered super, super rude. Because some people say, well, by law, but they don't give it to them. I can tell you something. I have a friend here. He's a lawyer here in Punta Cana, and he only takes labor cases. Why does he take only labor cases? Because the win rate is like in the 90+ percentile. So if somebody doesn't get their tips, they're able to sue, and the odds are they're going to have to settle or they're going to have to win. So if people don't know their rights, that's a different story here, but that shouldn't be on the customer. That's what I think. And I've been traveling a lot lately, and traveling more and more has taught me that. And again, I'm not going to compare this to the United States. I'm not going to compare it to Canada because it wouldn't be a fair comparison. I'm comparing it to other Latin American nations. And this is the only one where we're paying 28% plus cash on top of everything. And it just bothers me. It bothers me when they lie to my face, because if I want to leave extra money, I mean, hey, people that know me know me. I have a couple of drinks in me and I have a great time. I'll tip ridiculously. When I go to a lot of places where my friends are owners, I always tip ridiculously because it's my friends' places. But I just don't like to be lied, and I think lied to, and that's a huge thing. I think a lot of people feel the same way, and that's how a lot of business gets lost. Multiple different restaurants, you see them closing down all the time, and you wonder why did they close down? It's because of the service, one, and a lot of times it's the pricing. People come to the Dominican Republic, and Dominican Republic, I think, was a very great a deal for a long time, and it still is a deal to people coming from the United States, coming from Canada, coming from certain places. It's a deal if you're coming from certain places, but I think it's not a deal if you're coming from certain parts of Europe or even certain parts of the United States, because a lot of times people want to compare the pricing to the United States, but you have to understand the United States is 50 countries, 50 countries under one federal banner, and within that country, the pricing can vary greatly. What I pay for something in Manhattan could be something totally different than what somebody pays in Albany or all the way upstate New York, right? So you can't really. It's not such a blanket statement of what's going on. Now, the other thing that's affecting things here recently in the real estate market is there have been mass deportations of Haitians. Now, the Dominican Republic elected a new person in charge of immigration here, and this person obviously wants to do their job, and they've been deporting more Haitians, and this happens a lot. Just so you guys know, if you read the history of the Dominican Republic, this happens like waves. Every once in a while, they want all the Haitians out, then everything calms down for a while. And then they want them out again. And it tends to be a business here. I don't know if you guys know, but it tends to be a business. They get picked up, they pay, and they get released. Like even today, I saw an article right now where they admitted that this is what happens here. Now, here's how this is affecting the real estate market here in the Dominican Republic, in my opinion, and from what I've seen. Because you still see workers, but they've deported in the last 2 weeks or something like that, like over 20,000 Haitians. A lot of other Haitians left because they just don't want to be abused. They said they don't want to get beat up, so they left voluntarily. What happens is I'm seeing reports of slowdowns in Santiago, slowdowns here in Punta Cana. I think they said something like 40% of the projects in Santo Domingo are either stopped or on hold or you're delayed. So, whether I understand the nationalistic part of what they're doing here, because we go through that in certain parts of the United States where, we have the Mexicans building. But in this country, and I explained this to people before because they're like, this is just like the U.S. with the Mexicans. Yes and no. In the United States, you have a labor force that does the work for less than Americans. This is true. This is our Haitians, the Mexicans, right? But you also have unions in the United States. You also have unionized labor forces. Try hiring in Queens, New York, in Miami, a licensed plumber, a licensed, builder, a licensed person that's a carpenter that's going to put a new kitchen in for you, and you're going to find out how much it costs. What happens here, because there's no licensing in this country for these kind of things, you don't have a licensed labor force and then the unlicensed Haitians. You have one labor force, right? And that's just all it is. So what ends up happening is Dominicans, they work in things like, they'll remodel your kitchen, they'll do internal things, they're handyman. They work in that because they can make money, especially working with foreigners. They make a lot of money. But what happens is when it comes to construction, the construction force here, the labor force, besides the foreman, is exclusively Haitian. So if you start to cause a rift in that, And I do understand. I'm not here to tell you guys whether I'm for it, against the deportation. That's a personal issue for the people in this country, and they need to handle that. But what happens is if you remove a certain percentage of the workforce here that's working in construction right now, and then you scare off a bunch of other ones, and everything starts to slow down, that equals into loss of income for the developers, loss of income in the economy, because a lot of them, even though they send money back to Haiti, they spend a lot of money here. And it also loss of plusvalia for the people who would invest in the Dominican Republic. What do I mean by that? You're buying in a project and they tell you it's going to be ready in 2026. That project right now is going to be ready in 2027, 2028. Depends on how long this whole thing takes over to blows over, to get itself back on track, to get back adjusted. It's almost how it stops being like the hot topic and everything starts to calm down. Now, you bought a property and you thought you were going to get it in 2026, but you're going to get it 2027, 2028. Now, you still have the same payments to make most of the time, and you've lost a year of 2 years of the money you could have made holding on to that apartment, all because of the labor force that has been disturbed, right? Let's use that word, has been disturbed here. And that is affecting the construction market, not just in tourist areas, but the entire Dominican Republic. Projects delayed or on hold. And people need to adjust for that. A lot of people are not talking about this, but I want to help you guys out. I want to tell you guys what's going on so you know. And in my opinion, I think we're shifting to a huge resale market in the Dominican Republic. Because when something's built already, right, it's like, okay, it's there. You see what you're getting. You either like it or you don't. And you know that you can secure the property for you today. We're at a point now, unfortunately, where if you're buying, and I still understand people that say, look, I'm going to buy it in pre-construction. I have clients that tell me, it's fine. I understand. I'm buying in pre-construction. I really like the project because there are a lot of great projects in construction by solid builders. And if it gets delayed a year or two, I understand. It's no problem for me. What I like to do is be transparent with people and let them know that. I don't want to tell you, yes, 100% is going to be ready the year they tell you it's going to be ready, and all of a sudden it's not, and you get mad at me as the broker. People have to understand that we as the brokers here, we're only doing what we're told, right? If you tell me, all right, Mario, I'm building this building, I'm going to have everything ready, I got my team ready, I'm going to give it to you this day, to the buyers. And then you sign the contracts and you do all of that, and legally you're into it, and that's it. You bought the property. If it gets delayed, if something doesn't come out right or whatever, it's not us, the brokers, because we're only, and we do our due diligence. You know, I, like myself, besides owning a law firm, before I started the law firm, I had my attorney on a retainer monthly, and he was looking over all the paperwork, which is what a brokerage should do, right? A brokerage should have an attorney on retainer that reviews paperwork, whether it's an individual seller or a project. I mean, there's some big developers that we already know who they are, so, you know, those you're going to just deal with the way you're going to deal with them. But you should have an attorney on retainer that's going to look over the paperwork to make sure at least you did your due diligence and everything is okay. And then after that, you know, once people sign, they should make sure that their contracts are worded in a way that if the project is delayed past a reasonable amount of time, there should be some kind of compensation for you. If you're okay with that. If you're not okay with taking a risk of a time frame of when the property is going to be done, then you should only look at resales. Now, that's also going to put up the market in resales because, hey, choice properties are choice properties. If they're not choice, obviously, you're going to have an open market. You're going to have some flexible pricing. But if you're looking at choice property in Santo Domingo, choice property in Santiago or in beach towns or whatever, those properties are always going to be at a premium, right? And what happens is as the cost of construction goes up. You guys have to look at like bags of sand, I think it is, or block or whatever, they've doubled in the last 4 years. So as the construction prices go up, then existing prime guys, prime, I'm talking about prime, remember, I'm never talking about subprime or even worse. If we're looking at prime properties, they're going to go up in value only because you have so much subprime that's being built and the cost of construction is so high or going up that you know, if somebody had bought an apartment for $200,000 and now new apartments are costing $250,000, $280,000, they're not going to sell their nice prime apartment. I mean, it's crap. But if they're not going to sell their nice property for less than that property that you have to wait 2 years for right now. Does that make sense? Because it's ready and it's ready for you to move into right now. So that's what drives up the price of, you know, nice choice property that's already been built. And I agree. I mean, I said it, you know, prices here are much higher now. I think the days of like property being, you know, 2 coconuts and 1 plátano, those days are over. The price of labor, also is going to go up, because if there are less people right now because of the deportation, then the guys that are left are going to want more money. I don't know if you guys ever dealt with like Haitians. They negotiate, man. They work their asses off, but they negotiate. They'll be like, oh, well, you don't have anybody, so I want more money right now. The price is going to go up. If they ever introduce locals into the building scene, then the price is going to go up even higher. So then that's going to bring up the price of existing good properties up, because they're going to be worth it, right? Nobody's underselling. And you can't get mad at people. I see a lot of expats like, oh, everything's so expensive. Why are the resellers, people selling their property for this much money and that much money? Not a single person, unless you have, mental problems, is ever going to say, I want to sell my property for 20, 30% less than the market, or what the market's worth, what they think it is. They always blame the pricing on resales, right? And on everything on the brokers. And I'm going to give you guys a little lesson, because I've been doing this for 30 years, guys. It is not us, the brokers, that overprice properties. I know it's very, very easy for you guys to say that and look for a scapegoat. Everybody wants to point the real estate guy as the villain. When property is overpriced, so you guys understand, it doesn't sell, right? Why would we want to have a whole bunch of properties for sale that don't sell? How do we make money? The seller doesn't make any money. The broker doesn't make any money, and the buyer doesn't buy anything. So it's ludicrous to think that we want to upprice. We'd rather sell something at $200 and make a commission than put it at $275 and make zero. And then the seller makes zero and the buyer buys zero, right? Think about that. The real estate agents in this country are not and in general, not the villains. Yes, I agree. There are a lot of unlicensed people, a lot of idiots. And I don't know if I've spoken to you guys about this before, but there are two different kinds of brokerages nowadays here in the Dominican Republic, right? One of the type of brokerages is your standard, like you guys know, back in the United States. You just check my messages, make sure, see if anybody's sending, because sometimes I have mic issues and they send it to me and I don't even know it. Got it. Okay. Let's see here. Boom, boom, boom. What we have here? Speak to Mario, real estate, Goldstone, and tourism. Old crusty. Where do you think the failure to pass any tax increase will lead to infrastructure projects, possibly paying to the lack of maintenance can be bad? Do you think that? Okay, so somebody asked me. Sorry, off topic, and I'll just jump back to what I was saying. Right. Mario, do you think the failure to pass any tax increase will lead to infrastructure projects possibly falling into disrepair? Lack of maintenance can be bad. No, I don't think so. I think lack of maintenance has to do with if people in a building that bought in a certain place pay their maintenance. That's the money that's used to maintain. The public streets and all of that doesn't matter. I mean, obviously, we're paying high taxes now, guys, and they're not doing anything about it, right? This money was not to make, in my opinion, right? In my opinion, seeing 20 years of politics here and just politics in general, the increased taxes they were not increasing taxes in order to better, the streets, to better everything else. There's enough money being taxed. I want you guys to know we pay high taxes, the people that pay taxes here, right? But it was just to pay loans, to pay debt that the government has incurred over the last couple of years. Because if you guys follow the news here, they keep taking préstamos, right? So obviously there's bills that come with that, and then you need to raise taxes to pay your bills, right? It's like imagine the country's a person, and they just took a whole bunch of high-interest credit card loans right now. Who's going to pay that, right? So they're trying to get a raise, which the raise is the higher taxes, to pay the new credit card bills. Besides the streets, the semáforos, and there's a whole thing going on with that also. There are cases going on in Santo Domingo. Has to do with wherever you're buying and how that area applies. And if people pay their maintenance, because sometimes you might have 100 apartments and only 30 people pay their maintenance. Okay, let's see. Luis Gomez, the cost of building for contractors will go down. They won't win like before. I disagree. The cost of building for contractors will go down. I haven't seen the price of anything, the cost of anything ever go down. Franklin, you've been here for 20 years. Have you ever seen the prices go down? Exactly. Never. What happens is if you have less workers, the prices, like I was just saying right now, if there's less Haitians on the work site, they're going to want more money knowing that they need them. Listen, Haitians are pretty smart. The minute they know that they can get extra dollar out of you for something, they'll do it. You need something, they'll be like, yeah, sure, I can do it. But give me this, patrón. Oye, patrón, dame esto, patrón, tú sabes, porque es difícil, patrón. No puedo conseguir eso, patrón. And then they're going to want their money. So no, I don't see the price of contractors going down. No way. If anything, they've been increasing the minimum wage and the rates for different jobs here. This is a good one. Old, crusty, extra salty Uncle Rico. What the heck? The work is backbreaking, and predominantly manual for low wages. It will be a big problem for construction. Thank God I got my villa. Well, yes, if you bought a nice choice property right now, guys, if you bought a nice choice property and you got it for a good price, you've done really well. I mean choice. There are some properties that are not going to go up as much in value. And I talk about that if, where you're at, they're going to build 10,000 units, right? Almost like a housing project. Or in Europe, we call them quartiers. They just have a whole giant division of buildings and everything. It might not go up if you have a lot of competition. But if you did buy something like that, yes, the price of construction is going to go up. Look, I can guarantee you guys, if you guys follow this, the price of materials is going to continue to go up. Forget about the reforma fiscal. That's off the table for now. The price of material is going to keep going up. The price of labor is going to keep going up because the price of food, the price of goods, the price of everything keeps going up. So if the price of everything in this country keeps going up, and it's been going up at a huge rate, I think. I see things 100% more here than I saw them 3-4 years ago in the supermarket. So if something's doubled at 100%, people are going to eventually be asking for more money in their jobs. So there's no way that I see construction going down. What I do see is what I've always seen is people that need to liquidate and you find a deal, right? That's universal. Somebody, and especially in beach town, what happens, guys, you understand beach towns are more transient, right? If you're in Santo Domingo or if you're in like Santiago, somebody can have a property and they'll be like, look, we're going to put it up for sale. It takes however long it takes and that's it. When you're dealing with beach town, what happens? You have an elderly couple. One person passed away. One person gets sick. They need to go back to their country. They need to liquidate. That's when you can find a fire sale. And those fire sales, they very rarely ever go to the person who's looking for a fire sale. They go to the person who was willing to pay $250 for the property, and now they get it at $185 as a deal. I sold 2 apartments in an unnamed beachfront complex, and these 2 people got super lucky and bought these apartments for like $100,000 less each. It just happened to be at the right time, at the right moment. It wasn't even like I called somebody for the deal. They came in, they put an offer. We were like, oh, wow, okay, got accepted, boom, because the owners were looking to liquidate, right? So these things happen, but you can't gauge a market on that. You have to gauge the market on general pricing, and I don't see anything going down because the Dominican Republic, we all know, always goes up. There's no adjustment, even in gas. I mean, when I think about it, even gas prices, in the United States, I've seen gas prices go up, go down, go up, go down. Here, they pretty much stay the same, gas. It's been around the same thing. If anything, slightly goes up, but I've never seen like gas prices go from $5 here to $3.80. In the States, you've seen it fluctuate a lot, you guys, right? We don't have that kind of fluctuation here. It's an island. Everything has to be imported. The only way the country can make money is by taxing. But wait, there's 11 million, 12 million people here. Okay, so let me give you guys a breakdown on how taxes work here. Small and medium businesses in this country are called pymes, Pymes, if I'm not mistaken, right? Pymes, okay? So only 18% of small and medium-sized businesses in the Dominican Republic are registered and paying taxes. What does that mean? 80% of us, and I include myself in that because I'm a registered business and I pay more taxes than baby Jesus, I get taxed and we pay all the taxes. So anytime they come out with tax reforms, anytime they figure out what to do, that money is the extra taxes, the extra money is going to come from people like me and from the locals in this country who own registered businesses who are part of the 18%. Now, your next question is, Mario, 18% only of the businesses here? How? So what happens is I'm in that world. I go to the medium and nice restaurants in Santo Domingo, Santiago, Punta Cana. I go to the nice places. And in those places, you always get the factura, which has the ley and the itebis, right? Now, I'll tell you guys another thing. There are a lot of places that collect that money and don't pay it. So just because you go there and you pay it doesn't mean you don't. I can only find out when I ask for factura fiscal. And if they tell me they can't give me a factura fiscal, then I know that they're taking the money. But only 18%. And it's been proven that the lower the taxes are, the more people pay taxes. I see that in Panama. In Panama, you can pay for an ice cream, for a water, for a salchipapa in the park with your Yappy app, and they don't care because there's 0% tax on food and 7% tax on alcohol, and people don't have a problem paying. I look at the income tax structure there, and it's very, very fair, very comparable to the United States, to a good state in the United States. So what ends up happening is people don't mind paying it. Even the president now agreed to that years ago in videos, and then obviously when people get into power, they change things around. So what happens is 18% of us are paying in business, right? Businesses, 18% of us are paying for 100% of the country's taxes. And anytime they try to do things like this, they just try to tax us a little bit more. That's why the taxation system here doesn't really work. People say, well, they're going to make the streets better. They're going to do this. No, it goes towards the debt. They have a whole scandal right now in Santo Domingo where one of the politicians was in charge of getting like semaphores, lights put out throughout the Santo Domingo or whatever, and all the money disappeared. None of the lights were put up, all kinds of issues. So I haven't seen more taxation to lead to any better services for anybody here over the years. So thank you guys for your questions. That was pretty cool. So if you guys have any more questions, you guys, if you're listening online right now, you can grab it. Franklin here is doing a great job of checking it out and sending me the questions. But yeah, getting back to the pricing that I was talking about. So just guys, I need you guys to understand, the real estate agents, yes, we can advise a seller, right, on what the pricing is for a property, but we don't want to overprice the property. Every time we overprice a property, it sits. If you actually ever spoke to real estate agents, I know some of you guys hate us, but whatever. But if real people spoke to us, you would understand that a lot of times we're fighting with the seller to price it correctly so the property can move. There are a lot of times I say, look, I think your property's worth $250. Like, all right, look, let's start at $280 and try that. I'm like, but I'm telling you, at $250, we're going to get the tractions that we need to get. No, $280. I want to do $280 because I heard of this and this and this and this and that. And pricing here, I understand Dominican Republic, there's no MLS, there's no tracking, because like MLS it's not fair to just say MLS. In New York, we use Street Easy. In New York, you can go to Street Easy, you can see every apartment in every building, what is sold from the last 10, 15 years. So you can track the pricing. We don't have that. But those of us in the business that have been in said area for X amount of time, we know that we can, what the price is, because I know this guy was asking that and he sold this and he sold that, and it might not be records. What I also do is I track, me internally in my company, we track projects and we track the volume of sales that they're doing. So I can tell what projects are moving, what projects are not moving, which I know how to focus and I know how to better educate my clients. But we as real estate agents, we don't want to overprice a property. Now, I was explaining to you earlier on, there are two different ways here how real estate works. The traditional is, well, I call it traditional for me, those of us that are foreigners here, and we want to price it correctly, and we charge, like here, 5 to 6% commission, right? We charge our commission, and that's it. Now, the reason why you guys are seeing some of the prices, the properties overpriced, is because traditionally the history of the Dominican Republic, and I'll explain to you guys how it works. Here, what's normal is illegal in the United States. It's called a net listing, right? What does a net listing mean? And this is one of the things I hated about doing business in Santiago, because it's so old school there that a lot of people say, well, look, man, I want $100,000 for my property. Whatever you get on top of that is on you. Because they can't see themselves giving you 5%, 6, 7% of the property. They feel like all you did is bring somebody through the door and then that's it. So what ends up happening is that they do a net listing. I do not take net listings, and this is the reason why you guys have seen sometimes a property for like 120, 115, 111, 107, 132, because they give it to all the different brokers, but they give it to them as a net listing. That's what really goes on in this country. You'll see that those of us that are traditional brokerages, we don't work like that. And you'll all see, like if you see the prime real estate companies, we will all have the same price on the property because we have an agreed upon price and we are commissioned based out of that. Let's see, got another question here. Based on the anticipated construction cost, do you think projects will be more selective and limited? Will they need a big house inventory with rising prices? Well, will they need as big a house inventory? I don't know if he means by that if they're going to have to like store their stuff. A lot of companies here do store their supplies when they buy them, especially if they have Confiture. But do I think the projects will be more selective and limited? No, because you could just use cheaper products, right? We have Chinese products, we have European products, and I'm still seeing products right now. Oh, and it's a good point about this, right? I'm still seeing projects right now where I'm like, how are you building and making a profit at this price? I want you guys to understand something, right? If you're seeing a project and the price is too good to be true, it's because the quality of the materials and everything that they're going to use in there is going to be substandard. Everybody works to make a profit, right? And people say, well, the developer should make less. Try being a developer here. Try seeing how difficult it is. See how many costs you have to cover, unexpected costs, and how things are here, and then you can talk about it. What happens is, if a one-bedroom, you see it for $120,000, I understand how they're going to make money at $120,000 on a one-bedroom. When I see a one-bedroom here for $65,000, I know that is going to be I don't care what the renderings look like. Que barato sale caro. it's going to be substandard, and you're going to go in there, it's going to be built out of formaleta, and it's going to be built out of this, and it's going to be built out of that. It's not going to be a quality product. You cannot get quality out of it. Sorry. Let's check out another question here. What do we got? Investigating real estate in Santiago is with the prices. Okay, so Santiago, mi querido Santiago. I love Santiago. I wish I could go. I want to go now. Santiago is a good investment because, and this is my opinion again, because they're going to at one point be connecting the train between Santiago and Santo Domingo, which is going to open up. Hey, those of you that are bad from Santo Domingo, stay there. Don't go to Santiago. Don't ruin it for everybody else, okay, please? But Santiago has a lot of growth potential. They're finally building their first big mall right now. They're finally doing all these different things. And if you've lived in Santiago, if you've been there, you know it's a special place in this country, and it's unique to many, many different. It's unique, right? It's not like anywhere else. Now, if you're going to invest in Santiago, I recommend in the top areas. You know, you're talking about Trinitaria, if you can afford that. That's a really, really great area, top of the line. That's their, like, that's their Anacaona. I don't even want to say Pantini. If you buy in Villa Olga, because you have to understand, Santiago is a big city, right? But the choice areas are not really a lot. You're talking about, you know, the area near the hospital, that's growing. They just put a Hilton there and everything. If you know, Hispanoamerica is growing. That whole area, Hispanoamerica is going to be nothing but condominiums with pools, really nice finishes for the people that want to be there for a lower cost. If you're looking at Los Jardines, Central Los Jardines, you can't beat that. Villa Olga, Esmeralda, and that whole area there, like right on Estrella Sadalao, all those stores where everybody wants to rent those rooftop apartments with pools, you know, in that central area, that central area is only going to boom. You know, I don't know about Gurabo. Gurabo has a ton of low-priced apartments. You can move to Gurabo for 20,000 pesos, 22,000, I guess, or whatever, and get a two-bedroom apartment with a pool. You ain't getting that anywhere else, you know? So I do think, but you have to be selective like anywhere else. Buy in prime Santiago. Let's see what else we got here. Boom, boom. Apologies. I meant the amount of houses. So if you're making more money from a higher cost, with builders need to build as many properties. Well, yes, because when they develop a project here, right, they don't say, well, we're going to build less. They look for a piece of land that fits their projection of said project. Okay, we're going to build 30 houses on this project. We're going to build 99 apartments here. Like I have a developer coming in now, and they're looking to build about 40 units, 48 units. That's what they want to build. So that's their projected. And they're not going to say, oh, I want to build 20 now because of this. No, they just figure out how to play into it, and they just adjust the pricing. And, you know, so far, most things are selling if they're prime. Other things, you know, not so much. But I think we're also in a changing market right now. I think that we need to wait until the end of this busy season that's coming up right now to see where we're really at. I think the U.S. elections play a huge part. I think that Reforma Fiscal scared the living crap out of everybody in this country. So we have the local is scared of that, and we have the Americans scared of what's going on, and the Canadians too, because they're pegged right to us. They're upstairs neighbors. Whatever happens to us, it affects them. So, and they have their own issues up there also. So I definitely think that people are going to, what would happen though, they might only look, how can I put it? If they already have the land, right, they're not going to say we're going to build less on that land. What could happen is, depending on where the economy goes after the U.S. elections, people might just say, look, we're only looking to build 25 units at a time instead of before they might have been looking to build 70, 80 units. They'll look for smaller parcels of land, smaller areas to develop. Also, keep in mind that a lot of the big developers, they already have land that they bought 10 years ago, 15 years ago. You guys don't know that, but they're sitting on that land. I know big developers that have land, and you can look it up, and it's like right there that they own it, and people are asking me, when are they going to develop it? That's what could change. That's what can change. They could have land that they're sitting on, and they're about to build 100 units, and they would say, you know what, let's wait till the market gets better, and they won't develop that land for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. That definitely will happen, is happening, and can happen. Let's see what else we got here. All right, I like the questions everybody got in. Okay. And grew up there, love it. Yep. Santiago, again, you have to look, I'm a firm believer, you know, I'm here in Punta Cana, and I'm a firm believer that in Punta Cana, if you buy prime real estate, you'll do well. Right? And you also have to talk to the right people when you're investing here. When you're investing here in this area, you want to do short-term rentals, you come to my office, I can set you up on a meeting with one of the top short-term rental people here in Punta Cana. Do not buy, and I did a video about this last week, right? People buy a $100,000 apartment in one bedroom, and they think they're going to get $100 a night for this fucking property. Sorry, because I'm passionate about that. Look, sit down with a real agent. When you come down, you sit down in my office, and you're like, look, I want a $100,000 apartment in Tal, right here. I'm going to tell you it's a great lifestyle buy. You're going to get a nice pool, a nice apartment, close to everything, but you're going to get $50 a night tops for that unit. I can put you in touch with one of the top people that does short-term rentals here who will give you real numbers, real data before you invest. So there are a lot of great investments in this country, but there are also a lot of horrible investments. And just because it's shiny and nice and the renderings look nice and they give you a cool concept, there are some concepts, I can't mention them, right? But there are some concepts here that they're building here in Punta Cana that I got to tell you, I'm looking at them and I'm like, I can't get my air conditioning to work right, and it's a brand new apartment. You think they're going to do all this in your building and this is going to work? And there are also some projects here, which, remember I said it, there's some projects here that are so ambitious that if that gets built, I'm going to start to flap my wings and fly. You'll see a flying Mario around here, right? I just don't see it happening. And this has to do with working with real agents. And also, you know, I also understand the clients that come here, right? They want their piece of paradise. And it's so easy sometimes to sell them something that's never going to be built, that's never going to be built to that standard, that can't be maintained. We have to also be logical, right? You move to a building and the apartments are like $100,000, right? So they're going to build all these units at $100,000, and they're going to tell you that, that they're going to have this, and they're going to have that, and a disco, and a mall, and a tall, and a ball, and a hall, and this, and and that. Meanwhile, the developer has no history of building anything like that, and you're thinking you're going to get all this stuff. It's never going to be what you think. You're buying into un cartón. But you have to have the right broker and the right person advising you on that. Let's see what else we got here. Boom, boom, boom. What do we got? We got a whole bunch of them here. Oh, my Wi-Fi. Okay, what do we got here, guys? And thank you, everybody, for accompanying me today. This is great. Let's see here. Okay, do you think a U.S.-style bank is needed here? It would be a good investment? No, I don't think that. So it's not just like a U.S.-style bank. We have a Canadian bank here, Scotia, and they were the biggest pain in the ass to work with. What happened? I don't know if I was supposed to say that, but I just don't like personally working with them because I had bad experiences, and I can tell you what those experiences were. But what happens is when you're talking about a U.S.-based bank, the bank could be based anywhere, but when they get here, they have to follow international banking guidelines. They have to follow banking guidelines here. This is why, like, you know, I had bad experiences with Scotia as far as opening up accounts, the paperwork that they wanted. I personally didn't enjoy it because they have a more rigorous, but they have more rigorous requirements than a local bank here because they're international, so they have to deal with that. This country is not known as an international banking hub. If you're looking for that, you go to Panama. Panama has that down packed, but not here. I don't think so. I don't think so. And the reason why people say, well, why interest rates so high here? Well, one of the reasons I was told is because people here have such a high default that they charge high interest so they can make their money on the initial payments the first couple of years because people here have a very high default rate when it comes to financing. So that might just be more of an educational thing than needing banks to come in because there's nothing that a bank from the outside can offer a bank here. The banks here could just lower their rates, but they don't. Even the rates in the United States were going low, and I was asking my bank person, I'm like, how come the rates aren't dropping here? Oh, no, it still has to catch up. And I'm like, in the U.S., we're hitting about 6% on a mortgage, and when it was 7 and change, it was still the same rate here. But they know they can take advantage of it. That's what it is. If you know you can get this much blood from a rock, why not keep getting the same blood from the rock? Why give the rock a better deal? That's unfortunately how things work here. When you look at that's what kills the pricing here, the high interest rates. And that's what we talked about. A person here making 3 times the median income cannot purchase a Kia and a basic entry-level $100,000 apartment because the payments for those is all their money. There's nothing left for healthcare. And healthcare here is very, very expensive, guys. I want to tell you that. Healthcare is very expensive. Now, I'm telling you as a local. I'm not telling you, and I'm not telling you just as a local that owns a business. I'm telling you, like, let's just say in the local mentality, right? Because you come from the United States, you come from North America. I mean, Canada, you guys get free healthcare, so you guys are lucky. But those of us from the United States, healthcare is super expensive in the United States. Here, it's affordable for us, but for a local person, for me, it's almost 9,000 pesos a month, almost $200 a month. Now, we just went through the mathematics of buying one car, one apartment. Where's your health care coming from one person? If there's a family involved, where's that family going to find $350, $450 a month for health care, then gas at $5 a gallon, then a car, then an apartment, grocery shopping here? I spent, if you don't eat, they call it canasta básica, but that's like low quality food. That's like dollar store food in the United States. You guys ever went to the dollar store and they have dollar spaghetti, dollar pasta sauce, dollar everything? That's dollar store food here, right? if you eat well here, it's super expensive. I bought a steak, $20 in the supermarket, right? $15 to $20. The price for Brangus here is the same as for Angus in South Carolina, in parts of Queens, and if part of the Bronx. You go and you get meat and stuff for the same prices as you get it here. So the people can't afford it because of those rates. Kill them. Let's see what else. Why do you believe 8 to 16 projects with high build standard, indoor and outdoor, are not being built more frequently? Large apartments, higher quality materials, and landscaping. Okay, let me think about this one. What bank do you suggest to bank with? Luis Gomez. My favorite, personally, is I work with BHD. Santa Cruz for certain things. I feel like they've changed on me a lot over the years, but I would say BHD is one of my favorites. And then sometimes it doesn't depend on the bank. So I'm glad you asked that, and I'll get back to the other question. When it comes to banks, there's two things. Which bank and your representative. I have one of the best representatives. I have the best representative for BHD for business in the entire country. She was able to give me my car loan because I was changing cars in 48 hours and reached out to me at 8 p.m. on a Friday night saying my loan was approved. So it's not just a bank. Now, it also depends if you have a cedula or not. If you're a resident, if you're not a resident here, definitely BHD, definitely Santa Cruz. I do not recommend, like I have Banco Reservas, but because I don't have a cedula, there's nothing they can do for me. They can't give me credit cards. They can't do anything for me. So they're useless. Also, smaller banks like Banco Lopez de Haro, I got a credit card with them personally, and I don't have a cedula. I just never developed that relationship with them because other banks help me out with stuff, but that's also a bank that's more of a boutique bank, and you can work with them. And also, they have high interest rates, but a lot of times you can work out a lot of things with associations here, like Asociación Cibao, because they don't have the same guidelines as banks. They're associations, so they're a lot more flexible than the bank. So, okay, why because 8 to 16 units, in order for 8 to 16 units to be profitable here, it would have to be 8 to 16 luxury units. And now you have to find a lot in a place like Capcana, in a place like where the luxury is being built, right? Where it would make sense. And it doesn't. And those kind of the lots that are available are like lots that you can either put a multi-million-dollar house and you can make your money, right? Or you can put a whole lot of units and make your money. 8 to 16 is just a weird number with high standards because where would you put that in? You also have to remember land here now is mega expensive. So let's say you went to Santiago, right? Or Piantini, and you bought a house. You know all those houses, if you guys ever been to Santo Domingo, you have these houses and they're like, the land might be like 700 square meters, 1,000 square meters, right? Every time they sell that house, they build a tower. Now, why would you build 16 luxury units there when you can build 80, 90, 50, 60 square meter condo suites or whatever the case is and make a lot more money? It just has to do with mathematics here. It's not feasible mathematically wise between the cost of the land, the cost of materials, the cost to build, and especially if Comforteur is not involved, it doesn't make sense. It's not enough money to be made because there's nowhere where you're going to get, if you really think about it, if you understand how this country's set up, think about Casa de Campo, think about, the only thing I've seen like that, I've seen somebody build like all these little townhouses one time and they did that and that was it. So I just think it's just a number that doesn't work necessarily for this country. And that's it. But listen, I appreciate you guys being here with me today. I held this whole thing for an hour because like I said, I was running crazy and I didn't get a chance to coordinate with all my guests, but I have some great guests coming in 2 weeks. So we're going into 2 weeks now. I'm just kind of switched up the schedule a little bit. And next time I'll have a bunch of cool people here. I want to get a couple of people how they feel about it, because those of us that have been here for a very long time see things one way. People that have 1 to 2, 3 years here see things differently. So I want to give you guys that perspective also in the future. I have a lot of stuff to talk to you guys about going forward. So thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And as you guys know, I'm always on MarioFamaRD.com. My WhatsApp is there. Hit me up. Whatever questions you have, I'll be more than happy to try to answer it.
Hi everybody, it's your boy Mario Fama RD, aka Yo Soy Blanco, pero no soy banco. And yes, it's time. We're finally launching the Mario Fama RD podcast. Now, what's going to be different about this podcast? Well, we're going to take our rose-colored glasses off. We're going to put our real glasses on. And we're going to talk about the hard-hitting subjects that nobody talks about being an expat here in the Dominican Republic and in Latin America in general. We're going to talk about law. We're going to talk about business. We're going to talk about lifestyles, and everything the Dominican Republic has to offer. The good, the bad, the ugly. Kind of like the Clint Eastwood Spaghetti Western, but here in the Dominican Republic. If you have any questions, we'll answer them for you. We're going to talk about everything that relates to being an expat, not just in Punta Cana, but Santo Domingo, Santiago, the North Coast, the East Coast, West Side, even the West Coast. everywhere. And if you want to be a patrocinador and have your logos up here and sponsor us, then let me know.
Introspección. Preguntas incómodas.